Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you guys with the most up-to-date political, economic and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in.
Okay, happy Monday everybody. Let's begin with economic and financial developments. Over the weekend, the People's Bank of China, China's central bank, published its updated numbers on national gold reserves. According to the new data, the country increased its gold reserves for a 5th straight month. Specifically, the People's Bank of China increased its holdings by about 18 tons in March, bringing total stockpiles to 2,068 tons. This trend is not unique to China either. According to Japanese financial media outlet Nikkei Asia, in the past decade, India, Russia, Poland, Turkey, Hungary, Venezuela, Qatar, and Uzbekistan have all increased their gold reserves, likely driven, especially in the last 12 months, by heightened geopolitical risks and high inflation. At the end of March, China's foreign currency reserves also rose to over $3.1 trillion, up by over $50 billion month on month. There is a lot of debate between commentators surrounding the implications of China's increasing gold reserves, but the increase should be examined within a global context. Quote, gold officially represents a little over 4% of People's Bank of China reserves, although there are many who believe the People's Bank of China may have more gold than they have reported. Given that China has been intervening indirectly through state banks, its total reserves are almost certainly more higher than reported, and it wouldn't be surprising if its gold reserves were too. China nonetheless holds a lower share of gold in its reserves than most other countries. According to the BIS, gold represented about 7.4% of reserves for developing countries in 2020 and 19.9% for advanced countries, 14.6% for the world. About 1/4 of all gold reserves are held by the US, for whom gold comprises nearly 2/3 of reserves. Because the Fed rarely, if ever, intervenes, its level of reserves overall is very low, equal to roughly 3% of US GDP. End quote. Next up for the economy, Chinese financial media outlet Yicai Global reports over the weekend that Chinese EV, electric vehicle, battery makers are feeling the pinch as prices decline and stockpiles grow. In November 2022, the price of lithium carbonate, a key raw material for power batteries, reached a record 600,000 yuan, $8,722 per ton, up from 100,000 yuan per ton in 2020. The ratio of sales to production in China's EV battery industry surged to 132.7% in the first quarter of 2022 also, but this has all now reversed. By Q4 last year, the ratio fell to 56.4%, and sales declined by nearly 40% month on month. As of the end of March this year, the price of lithium carbonate has fallen by half to trade below 300,000 yuan per ton. Chinese financial media outlet Caixin explains that China's EV price war, weak household demand for cars, and now surging battery overcapacity are all conspiring to bring down EV battery prices, a decline which will likely cause much pain in the industry. Part of the reason for the oversupply was that battery-related businesses have been identified as a future industry and as such has received generous state subsidies. According to the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, more than 40 domestic battery projects were announced in 2022. Next up for the economy, Chinese-owned Hong Kong-listed brokerages are experiencing a financial bloodbath with heavy losses in 2022. Caixin analysts in a series of reports over the weekend explained that these Chinese mainland financial institutions sank into the red last year as they, quote, booked heavy losses from their own investments that included significant holdings of Chinese property developers' offshore dollar bonds. End quote. These reasons were not publicly disclosed by the financial institutions themselves. Caixin writes that sources provided this information. The outlet adds that the brokerages, quote, have a weak consumer base in their brokerage operations, so they rely on capital-intensive businesses like proprietary trading to make money. End quote. As we can see here, 6 securities firms traded on the city's exchange reported losses in 2022, with Haitong International Securities Group being especially savaged, seeing 6.5 billion Hong Kong dollars, $830 million in losses. Guotai Junan International Holdings Limited was able to avoid the red, but net profit attributable to shareholders collapsed 93%. These heavy losses are just one of the many flow-on effects of the housing crisis. After the government crackdown on leverage and the market shock after the Evergrande crisis, previously liquid developers struggled to raise money or to refinance their maturing debts. In 2022, according to CSPI Credit Ratings Co., Chinese real estate companies defaulted on $56.4 billion worth of offshore dollar bonds, collapsing dollar bond prices for developers. Assets, which these Chinese-owned Hong Kong-listed brokerages were highly exposed to. Quote, Haitong International, Borcom International Holdings Co. Limited, and China Industrial Securities International Financial Group Limited had heavy positions in property firms' dollar bonds and were severely impacted by the drop. Some even saw their retained earnings built up over the previous few years wiped out. End quote. Next up, Taiwan. Hey guys, if you enjoyed today's episode of China Update, don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribing and sharing is also a huge help. It is just me making these episodes every day. It's a lot of work, but your guys' support really makes it that much easier. For anyone who wants to go the extra mile and help keep the channel financially sustainable, Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links are in the description below. As always, thank you so much, everybody, for the ongoing support. Today, Monday, the People's Liberation Army Eastern Theater Command entered its third and final day of military exercises to provide a, quote, serious warning against the Taiwan separatist forces' collusion with external forces and a necessary move to defend national sovereignty and territorial integrity, end quote. The drills, named United Sharp Sword, are in response to Tsai Ing-wen's recent trip to New York and California, where she met with several U.S. lawmakers. On Saturday, the exercises were focused on, quote, honing, seizing control of sea, air, and information, end quote, with 71 People's Liberation Army aircraft flying near Taiwan, one of the highest levels in a single day. Yesterday, Sunday, on day 2 of the exercises, the People's Liberation Army escalated the drills by conducting mock attacks on key targets in and around Taiwan, according to state media. Quote, under the unified command of the Theater Joint Operations Command Center, multiple types of units carried out simulated joint precision strikes on key targets on Taiwan Island and the surrounding sea areas, and continue to maintain an offensive posture around the island, end quote. The Eastern Theater Command even published a computer-generated animation, which was posted across domestic and international social media platforms by state-run outlets, including the Global Times. As we can see from it here, there is little ambiguity in the images. Quote, the key targets refer to military facilities and specific buildings on the island of Taiwan. They could include key positions, airfields, important nodes in the Taiwan Islands military system, as well as important mobile targets. These key targets should be struck by multiple means, from multiple angles, in a precise manner, and at the same time when necessary. End quote. On the same day, Sunday, Taiwan's Defense Ministry confirmed that 70 PLA aircraft, including fighter jets, heavy bombers, and reconnaissance planes, had flown near Taiwan by 4 p.m. on Sunday. Half of these crossed the so-called median line, an unofficial demarcation traditionally used to prevent accidents. Quote, these kinds of exercises provide a useful opportunity for the PLA to practice large-scale joint operations in the area where a major conflict could happen around Taiwan, but also offer opportunities for the US and other militaries to gather intelligence on the exercises and the PLA. End quote. Hart then compares these drills to the ones conducted after Pelosi's trip last year. Quote, So far, the exercises do not appear to be quite as escalatory as those held after Speaker Pelosi's visit. We haven't seen some of the most escalatory moves, such as firing missiles over the island. The exercises are also shorter than in August. However, the PLA could still escalate to a level in the coming days, and it could extend the exercises beyond the originally announced time frame. One thing that is a bit different is the speed of the drills. In August, China announced the drills in advance. This time, the PLA Eastern Theater Command announced the drills as they were starting, and they have so far released less information than last time." End quote. Thus, the slow boil of escalation in the massive and critically important region of East Asia continues. Okay, that is today's episode of China Update. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Have a wonderful day wherever you are, and I will see you all tomorrow.